Hi, hi.
With computer.
You hear me?
Yeah, can you?
Yes.
Good, good. How are you?
Yeah. Wow, you have a really good sound. I'm good. Thank you. How are you?
I'm pumped. I'm usually not on this end of a podcast, so I'm very grateful. I appreciate it.
Uh-huh. I'm really excited about this too. It's what microphone do you have? That's like very clear.
Yeah, it's called a Shure. It's an
Oh, it's the
MV7.
Shure.
Give me 1 second. Yeah, I got to turn off. Sorry, I'm like jamming out over here, so I'm turning off all the music so I can hear you better. All right, cool. There we good. There we good. Yeah.
It's
It's
awesome.
a yeah, if you podcast regularly, which I see that you do, I'd
Yeah.
highly recommend this microphone for sure.
Mm. Yeah, and you have just like one of those the shorter ones, right? And then you have the cable. Like,
I mean,
which
so yeah,
version?
yes. So real quick, yeah. So the microphone is a microphone, no matter what. So you have like different.
Right, yeah.
I have different stands just in case of what I want to do, with
Right.
the microphone. So, um, but yeah, I again
Cool.
highly recommend getting this microphone for sure.
Yeah. I've never had on the podcast that pure sound, I feel like. Maybe it's just me. Anyway, thank you for coming on, Ellen, on the podcast.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, you're the man behind the Shift EQ podcast. Um,
Hmm.
that's how you like say it, right?
Yeah, Shift EQ. That is correct.
Because cool. Um, I just want to start with asking you to tell your story, like 5, 10 minutes, however long you want to use.
Okay.
More better, or yeah, feel free
Yeah.
to take up whatever space for it.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Man, where do I start? Right? Like when you like talk about yourself, your story for 5 to 10 minutes. What are you gonna
Yeah.
say? What are you gonna do? Right?
Oh
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I'll speak on the premise of where and what my brand is all about and why it means so much to me, and I'll kind of just take it from there. Um,
Yeah.
so if I were to, there's a quote that says the two most important days in a man's life is the day that he's born and the day that he finds out why. And I
Mm,
feel like a lot of us just kind of
mm,
navigate through life and just kind of do things that we're told. And then there's this like one point where we just kind of wake up and we're like, holy crap, what am I doing? What is the intention that I'm serving? Like, is this even have any kind of purpose? And
yeah.
the reason why I bring that up is for me, I was someone who I was orphaned. I carried a lot of that trauma into being in the Navy. Then I got married at a really early age, had children at a really early age, went through a lot of controversies, a lot of difficulties just trying to grow up and navigating through life. And then when I got out of the Navy, probably about 6 years ago now, 6 years ago now, yeah, it
Mm,
crippled me. And I was at a point where my relationships were not that great. I was completely broke. I was dead out of shape, didn't have any direction in my life. And then it just kind of started hitting me. Well, what is all of this amounting to? Why am I suffering through this? And how do I get out of these positions that I don't want to be in? Um, and that led me,
yeah.
ironically enough, all of this led me to start running. And then when I started
Mm,
running, I decided to sign up for a marathon. And the notion of prioritizing my health, the notion of prioritizing these habits in a way to go after something that I thought was a really lofty goal. All of those intrinsics about overcoming the story that I told myself in pursuit of this highest goal, that is when it started changing for me. That's when it started pivoting. And
right.
it was in that pursuit that I started realizing about myself that the reason why I destroyed myself, the reason why I defaulted to alcohol, the reason why I defaulted to drugs, defaulted to lust, defaulted to all of these other things just to stimulate where I was at was because I had zero direction and zero purpose. As soon as I
Yeah.
embraced what it was like to have purpose and to go after higher goals, that's when I realized there's a lot of people out in this world that are mirrors of what I used to be, which is going through life without any real intention or goal or purpose and trying to figure it out. And so why Shift EQ started happening was because I realized that if I changed my emotions changed my emotions about myself, about what I was doing, and I serve that towards a higher purpose and a higher version of myself, that pursuit shows up in so many other areas of my life. And now where I'm at the point of, especially with regards to talking to bodybuilding. So on the surface, what it looks like is I'm talking to a bunch of bodybuilders and, their pursuit of competition. But if you really dive into the podcast that I have with these people, they're more about the things that they too have internally struggled with and overcame in pursuit of, well, in this case, it's bodybuilding. But what I've wanted to do is have a platform to show people that there are an extraordinary amount of different people that have gone through some of the same things that you're going through now. And instead of victimizing and destroying yourself in lieu of it, you can build yourself into a brand new version. And all of the adversity and all of the things that you've gone through can be just part of the story, the comeback story that you have for yourself. So, in layman's terms, I pretty much overcame a lot of the difficulties that I was going through that was destroying my life. And
Mm,
now I'm trying to show other people how to empower themselves through the same things that I needed empowering through.
right. Yeah. It's amazing. And I love that you also mentioned that it's also about like going from a victimizer to being in power of like what's taking actions yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's for sure also something that I relate to just with the podcast,
Mm-hmm.
with my
Mm-hmm.
podcast here with the show. That's awesome. You you've been in the Navy. You want to share more about that?
Sure. Yeah, I was in the Navy
Uh, yeah.
for 13 years. Um,
Right. Wow.
yeah, yeah. So
Damn.
I was a nuclear engineer. So all
Uh-huh.
of the aircraft carriers and submarines are all nuclear powered. Um, and I was on the USS Carl Vinson, which was the carrier that did the burial at sea for Osama bin Laden about 10 years ago now. And
Oh,
so
okay.
I was on the ship for that. So yeah, the Navy. I'm very grateful for it, but I would never do it again. That thing was challenging
Right.
as hell. I would never do it.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. What are some of the like things I guess that you I don't know some takeaways or things that like what comes yeah what are some takeaways maybe that from that I had a conversation with um had a podcast the Dane Space too and I had a conversation with someone who has been to the Navy in Vietnam, and he talked
Okay.
about his story with that. It's just like crazy, like how awesome, which is like what it is like today. Like how you shelter up when you're on a camp ride, and how you live together, and you learn to collaborate because you're just like there, like how many men or people together you are, and you have to like team
Hmm.
up and learn to navigate that. And I always find that there's some just wisdom learnings and yeah, I mean just what you your podcast too, talking with people just when it's from another asset kind of. So what are some things that you feel like you catch up on today maybe?
So
Of
like
them.
what are some things that come to mind when it comes to the Navy? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, yeah, does that make sense? Like
Okay, yeah.
kind of
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
there's a wide range of things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I don't want to sit here and make a nightmare story out of the Navy, even though it's really easy to kind of just dwell on those things. Um,
Uh-huh.
But I would definitely say that seeing the world, um, seeing places like Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Malaysia, Hong Kong, I think there are amazing places to see. But in the same breath of seeing some of the most privileged and high end countries of the world, seeing places like Manila, Philippines, or
Mm,
seeing Chennai, India, where they're just dirt poor and they don't have much. And I could definitely say I think one of the biggest takeaways that I've seen is I think a lot of us predicate our happiness off
mm,
of acquiring money or acquiring assets or having objectivity in our lives. But it's crazy because I remember there was a week where we were in Dubai and the week after we were in Manila, Philippines. And
mm.
Dubai has all the riches in the world, all of the top end cars, architecture, you name it, it has it. And
Right.
to see so many pretentious people lead with their ego and not be happy unless they're better than the next, and to go from that experience and go to Manila, Philippines, where on the outside it looks like they have a fraction of what the people in Dubai have, but then
Mm,
seeing them be absolutely grateful and feel more
mm,
fulfilled with their lives compared to the people in Dubai, it was some of the greatest lessons that I got to learn and also be humbled by with regards
mm.
to seeing the riches of the world and the poorest of the world and then redefining what rich and poor really mean, you know?
Right. Yeah,
Like
yeah.
like if you have all the top line cars, all the top end real estate in the whole nine, but you're not happy, then are you really rich?
Mhm.
Right? Whereas I
Yeah.
saw in the middle of the Philippines, I saw a neighborhood where there's like shacks on top of shacks, and each shack is probably like the size of a living room, and there would be like four families living in this living room, and all of
Mhm.
them are happy as hell. All of them mingle with one another and are communal, supportive, very not selfish and selfless, as a matter of fact. And so it's interesting on being able to travel the world and see that perspective. I think so many people are so consumed with how do I post myself in this exotic place and how do I post myself in this,
Yeah.
how to post myself in that. But if you take away all of the external validation and be present in some of these different cultures, the amount
Yeah.
that you can learn not only about them but also learn about yourself, I think is just absolutely priceless, and it's something that I would never trade for the world.
Yeah. Mm. I think also something I'm realizing just now with you saying that, and what I remember, Selig, sorry, Thomas, who's been in Vietnam, who I talked with in Denmark, it's just that it's actually more so the experience of how different we live and our experience of happiness rather than how terrible of a situation you are and fighting for whatever you fight for is
Right.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And
Wow.
that's really important because so many people I feel are hell bent on looking at what they don't have rather than being appreciative of what they do. And I think we're kind of consumed in that vortex until you experience something that by default you have to be grateful for what you have. You know, it's like the person that wants an exotic car, right? Like the person, there's always someone below them that just wants a car, right?
Yeah.
And then there's someone below them that just wants to be able to drive. Then there's someone below them that can't even walk to even hit the pedals. So there's always like layers to where
Yeah.
someone is at. And it's not until you can actually be grateful for what you have that
Mhm.
life actually becomes more of a fulfilled process rather than constantly seeking things that you don't want. And that takes a little bit of work, but you know, the people that are always bitter and always looking at things that they don't want, they're actively making, or sometimes not even knowing that they're actively making a choice, but they are making that choice to constantly dwell on what they don't have rather than what they do. And
Right.
so anytime we get in this moment, right, like we get into a moment where we start not feeling grateful or we start asking God why, you know, I feel like that's a good opportunity for us to look within ourselves to figure out like, well, what is it that I'm really asking for, or the things that I can still be grateful for, and then how can I carry that in my life?
Yeah, yeah, the deep, or um, yeah, like taking that room for reflection and looking at yourself, or like doing what you just said can be really terrifying, right?
Mhm.
Like with the victim mindset, or like being in that, because I feel like it's something. I mean, with myself, I know that for sure. Sometimes I like feel, I say, "Oh, like why are you thinking this way about this? That's not who you really are."
Mhm.
Um, but that happens every week that I go there, and then but yeah, it's just, yeah, um, yeah, I am. I've been listening to your podcast, and reading up on some of the people too. You are you from Asia? Are you born in America?
So I'm my ethnicity is Korean and Japanese, but I
Uh-huh.
was I was born in Hawaii, and then yeah, I
Nice.
lived here. So just to kind of fast forward on that part. So I was orphaned. I was in the foster care system. So I'm not too familiar with my heritage so much. So because
Wait,
I
sorry.
mhm.
You said orphanary?
Yeah, so I
Right.
was so at the
I don't
age of
remember what that is. Sorry. Would
no
you
or
be
so being yeah so being orphaned is you don't have your parents abandoned
right,
you or
right,
your parents
right,
died, right? So
right.
when I was
I'm sorry about
four,
that.
no, look, we have one
No, I
life.
just
This is what we
right,
have,
right.
right?
Yeah,
And
I just
so I just look at this is what we have. And
right.
yeah, I perceive from an outside looking in, it's a very unfortunate circumstance. But kind of what we talked about earlier. And what am
Right.
I going to do? Compare myself to everybody else and victimize myself? Or am I going to look at this and be like, all right, well, I got some work to do. There's some traumas that I need to work through and be aware of. Um,
Right.
and then just become better in lieu of it. And that's what everybody's going through. Like, sir, maybe I was orphaned and I have to go through my own abandonment issues or whatever it is I have to overcome. But in that same breath, there's someone that's going through something as well.
Mm,
And it doesn't
mm,
matter if it's worse or it's better than mine. It doesn't invalidate what they're going through. And we're all going through something and working through something. And it's just a matter of stop stop apologizing for things that whatever you can't control, and instead of being a victim, start being a victor and start being an example for other people that are going through the same things, like
mm.
um so yeah, so kind of just to recap everything what I was just saying. So yeah, I went into pretty much, so my birth parents had divorced. My birth father took me, and then he effectively left me with some friends, and that got me into the foster care system. And yeah, I ended up going into a family that eventually ended up adopting me. And if you look at all of the big things, like my adopted family gave me a way better life than my birth father could have ever done. And so,
Mm,
yes, the being orphaned and being fostered could look like a very unfortunate circumstance. But compared to how my life has turned out, it's head and shoulders way above and beyond what it could have been with my birth father. So by default, it's a blessing, you know?
mm, mm. Gotcha. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But where did you go into before the Navy? Like what are you studying? Because then so you want to talk about that, but also about you in bodybuilding. I know you've been
Mm.
on stage,
Right.
um, seen that, which is awesome. Um, but you went to school before the Navy, I assume, or how so?
Well, kind of sort of. So I mean, I joined the Navy at 19. So it was effectively
Okay,
right after high school. So
right.
I went to like a junior college, didn't really like it. But then at the time, I got my girlfriend pregnant. I didn't want anybody to take care of my kids, and I wanted to take responsibility on my own. So me and
Mm,
her got married. And then I started my Navy career in South Carolina pretty much shortly after that.
Ah, okay, South Carolina. How old are you now?
How
I'm sorry.
how
But
old do you think? Hold up, hold up. How old do you think I look?
I'm
I'm curious.
like in your 20s. But really,
Yes, yes, we could pretend I'm 20, 25, right? Right? 25 for the 12th time. No, I'm actually I'm 37.
you're
So
37. Okay, no,
yeah,
yeah,
I
I was
feel
like
like I'm
probably
going
in your
on
late
65
28, but
though.
37.
Yeah, I feel like I'm old as shit. Like I don't care what this physical everything looks. I feel
You
internally I
look
feel like an old
great.
man. Thank
You
you.
look
Thank you.
great.
Yeah, I feel old though. So it's okay.
Hmm. Right. Huh. Well, okay, so you went to school for Navy. Then you began competing in bodybuilding. How did you get
Mhm.
into that? That was after running.
Yeah, so when I was getting ready for that marathon back in 2021, I started leaning down. So I've always worked out. I've always worked out like nonchalantly. Sometimes I'm like, I feel like before I started bodybuilding, I'm that average gym goer where I show up like 5 weeks at a time and then I take like a month off. And then I'll take like
Uh-huh.
5 weeks at a time, then I take a month off. Um, but when I was getting ready for my marathon and I was still lifting, I started leaning out and started like
Mm,
seeing my abs. I started seeing my physique show up in a different way. So I decided to
right.
challenge myself in the sense of, all right, how do I train for a marathon and a bodybuilding competition at the same time? So
Mm,
what ended up happening is I
right.
just started training for both of them. So I hired a coach. She helped me figure out what my diet was, how to actually work out with very specified goals, all the while still training for that marathon. So I was eating a lot, eating out so many carbs, eating so many everything to recover and learning in the whole 9 yards. And then what ended up happening is in October, it was October 23rd, 2021, I ran what was the Rock and Roll Marathon in San Diego. And then November
Okay.
21st of 2021, I competed in my very first bodybuilding show. Um,
Mm,
and then ever since I've competed, I kind of fell in love with the sport and pretty much been on this journey as you see it now.
right. Right. What's you? I love how you talk about like the people who never thought they would be able to get into bodybuilding, and then they get there, and then they're like, whoa, there's so much that I can do here. Like, how's that been like for you?
With regards to how's like bodybuilding applied to my life effectively,
Yeah, yeah, and like, yeah, maybe even like the perception of what you thought you could do, and before you went into it, and now after,
right,
like, what,
right.
how you would describe that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I like that question. So if there's so bodybuilding, in my opinion, is a goal. Um, and in
Yeah,
order for me to achieve a goal, I have to invest into myself, prioritize myself, and then go after this version, this higher version that I haven't seen yet, but rather still want to pursue. Like that's what bodybuilding is effectively.
yeah, yeah.
And I have found that the more that I break down my goals into actions, the more
Mm,
that I prioritize those actions and prioritize my mindset towards that actions, that that process of going after a higher version of myself offsets in so many other areas of my life. It offsets into so many other, because I mean, if you think about it, if I were to ask you, I'm assuming you have financial goals. I'm assuming you have other physique goals. I'm assuming you have relationship goals. I'm assuming you have X, Y, and Z kind of goals, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
But then it's like asking ourselves, well, why the hell aren't you going after it? What's stopping you, right?
Right.
And I will guarantee you that the majority of people that listen to this and majority of people in general, you ask them, what are the goals you're going after? They're going to find reasons of why they're not going after it. They're like, yeah, I kind of want this, but I don't, but I really don't based off of the actions that I'm telling myself. And more often than not, you'll find people that find reasons to not go after it. And
Yeah.
so what bodybuilding effectively has done for me, because originally I never thought I was going to get up on stage. I never thought I was going to be half naked posing and smiling and the whole 9 yards. Like I didn't expect that at all. So
Mm,
now that I proved it to myself that that's something I can do as long as I put my mind towards it, and I really break down and prioritize myself.
Right,
Like
yeah.
seeing that is now how I approach things. Like like ever since I started bodybuilding, my finances have gotten better. My relationships have gotten better. I'm not saying all relationships are good and better, but the majority of them have gotten better,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And the most important one is the relationship with myself. Like the amount of times before I bodybuilded, that I was doing bodybuilding and I doubted myself in so many other aspects. I can't do this and I can't do this and I can't do that. And
Yeah.
now I find myself where if there's something that I want and the first thought I have is I can't do it, I find myself reframing it to, well, if I could, what would that look like? And
Mm.
it's by constantly viewing things from a perspective of possibility that starts enabling and empowering you to go after the things that you want. And for me,
Mm.
that in of itself is quite possibly the most liberating and most amazing feeling that I have learned about myself, and that the catalyst for that has been because of bodybuilding.
Right, right. Love that. What I was, this made me think of like, how would you, because I've been thinking a lot about how different bodybuilding, at least what my experience, just not having been into it, but I have been exercising since and strength training and running since I was 13, playing soccer since I was 6.
Hmm.
Um, what like, because yeah, I don't know where do I go with this. Like, what would you describe the community um like in within bodybuilding? Like, what is, yeah? Well, how would you describe that? Sorry,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's also a great question,
I think
right?
it's
What?
just also the first time I'm asking someone in this area where like bodybuilding is so big as it is in California around. Because Florida is like it's California is kind of the biggest, right? And then Florida,
Okay.
or what would you say? So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's just from coming from Denmark and it being the biggest in Copenhagen.
Yeah, I was wondering where you're from. That's I'm glad. I was gonna ask you where you're from, so I'm glad you brought up Denmark. I'm like, oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. So
Yeah,
yeah,
it's a little country.
yeah, yeah. So bodybuilding isn't as is it as popular or not popular? Is it gaining popularity where you're at?
Well, it's yeah, it's quite popular in Copenhagen, but where I live, which is in Fyn, is like there's very little. I don't think there's maybe a couple of competition in Odense, but not as
Hmm.
many as in Copenhagen for sure. But it's just really interesting to see how, because I feel like that it's interesting for me to see how that the influencer and bodybuilding, how it kind of grows bigger in Denmark, but it's like in the USA and in Hong Kong, it's just like it's just like it's something different because it's also, I don't know, it's just, yeah, it's fascinating.
Yeah, it's very interesting too because America, I believe, houses the most fit people in the world and then also the most unhealthy people in the world at the same time. And,
Right.
and to see that contrast is pretty bizarre because
Yeah.
it's like 70% of the population in America is either fat or obese. And on that same breath, there is like a bodybuilding show out here in Southern California every weekend. There's another show, there's another show, and there's another show. And so
Hmm.
it's crazy to think that we have the most elite of physiques and the most non-elite of physiques under the
Yeah.
same place. Um, but to go back to your question about how I would kind of define the bodybuilding community, first of all, I I think too many people throw away or throw around the term bodybuilding. And because it's thrown
Okay.
around so much, that rhetoric is just really intimidating, right? Because
Right.
if you
I
say
see
you're a
that.
bodybuilder, like there's like, oh, wow, there's all this other things, right? But if you were
I
to
see
break
that.
down
Yeah.
bodybuilding to its pure element, all bodybuilding really boils down to is eating with a very specified goal, working out with very specified goals, taking care of yourself and prioritizing those selves and remaining consistent with it. And
Yeah.
so if you're to say, hey, instead of bodybuilding, let's just eat better, do it right, and work out more consistently and do those things consistently, that sounds a lot more approachable, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And so when you think about the bodybuilding community, all they're doing is those things. They're just dialed it
Mhm.
up a little bit more than the average person. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, that's pretty much all that it is. And the average bodybuilder too, if I were to like talk about a mindset perspective, I think the average
Mhm.
person treats bodybuilding slash working out slash fitness as a remedy towards their eating, whereas the
Mhm.
bodybuilding community serves as the foundation of their identity. So one is a
Mhm.
remedy and the other one's a nurture. And I think
Yeah.
that if you can, change that within
Got
yourself,
it. Yeah.
right, that's what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I see that. Thank you for coming up with that. Yeah. What what would you say to kind of well I have I have several more questions actually,
Yeah,
but
by all means.
um
Yeah.
the the Zoom is I don't I have the Zoom that myself like after 45 minutes. So if it's okay with you, we just like pause and go on again.
Yeah, that works. What we got to do? Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. What would you say to a woman going into bodybuilding?
What would I say to a woman going into bodybuilding?
Yeah, as a coach.
That's kind of like a loaded question.
Is that
um,
yeah?
what like can you be more specific on that before?
I
Like, good
guess.
luck. I don't
Well,
know.
I don't know. It was my partner who I asked her, and she's like, "What?" Because I was writing down question and thinking about the things that's just been like comes up in my mind every time I have it. Um, and yeah, I mean, what's because you're a coach, right?
I do now. Yep.
Yeah. Um, I guess maybe putting the situation a woman in her 20s or 30s who really wanted to get into bodybuilding but who's intimidated
Okay.
to do it. Um, yeah, maybe go there. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. So pretty much, what advice would I give someone who's just barely getting into bodybuilding as a woman and might
Yeah.
be intimidated from the notion of bodybuilding? Would that be accurate of what you're asking?
Yeah, maybe asking for myself, but not either, because I
Oh, you
like,
could ask for
I think,
yourself. It's fine. Yeah, yeah.
but
No, no. You deserve to. Hey, look, if you're gonna be a host of your podcast, you're allowed to ask things
yeah,
for yourself.
I think I'm just like, okay, yeah, okay, I'll go there.
No, no, no. Look, you deserve the answers that you want as well. All right, nothing wrong with that.
Gotcha.
So what I would always encourage people to do when they get into bodybuilding is ask themselves why they want to do it, right? What
Yeah,
is the reason of why? And as long as that why means something for you significantly, you'll find a way to show up. You'll find a way to start eating better. You'll find a way to work out better.
right,
But that why has to really exist. Like for me, my why originally was to overcome my drinking habits, my drug habits, trying to
right,
find something and a real purpose for myself. Now, as an ambassador of my own brand and as someone who promotes bodybuilding, I have the privilege of being able to show up with a certain physique so I can inspire other people to create that for themselves. And that
right.
why supersedes anything of myself personally. And so I'm obliged to support the people that I love. And now, so what I would encourage for you is to
Mm-hmm.
figure out what it is about bodybuilding that you want to accomplish. Hone in that why. Maybe it takes for you to write it in the mirror. Sometimes it may be as a background thing to your phone, but remind yourself of that why and then
Mm-hmm.
take it upon yourself to figure that out. Like I can give you a diet plan, I can give you a workout plan all you want, but if your why isn't significant and you don't know why the heck you're doing it, you're going to ignore it all to the T, right? Like
Right.
Like, let me ask you, what is it about bodybuilding that you want to get into?
Yeah, I was just wondering, like I realized that maybe that because yeah, I don't know how to describe this. I think well I've always when I step into the gym, I and when I if I go listen to a podcast on Spotify or wherever it is, what I always find fascinating is the part of the kind of the extended part of bodybuilding, which I found to you that you're doing, which is um doing like um like having the conversation with yourself about what is um I'm not sure. Like I think just the way that you keep having goal and you kind of change it. I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm kind of yeah, I don't I don't
Like,
know what to say
is the
right
question
now.
like you're asking, like, how do I keep going effectively, or?
Well, I okay, what is it? Can you ask the question again?
Well, no, no. I was asking what you're trying to ask. That's what I was trying to
Oh,
ask. Hey,
all
actually,
right.
you want
Okay.
to do this since we got about 2 minutes left? Do you want to send me another
Yeah.
link, and then maybe between now and the next recording, you can figure out what it is?
Yes. Let's
Let's do
do
that.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
Let's
All
do
right. Yeah.
that. Thank you.
Send me another link, and then we're gonna go from there. So.
Awesome. Great.